lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name is Ryan. Back with me again, my awesome co-host Manny, and we're back with another episode of the Weekly Poll. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please right now hit that subscribe button so you're notified every time we do a new one of these. We do these weekly every Friday. Got a bunch of other dope content on the channel. Check out. Let's do our picks. So once again, we obviously always have a lot of overlap with the stuff that we read because we have very similar tastes in comics. I don't know about you, but I really want to talk Last Ronin, Lost Years, number 2 first. I'll let you start off though, because I think I started talking first when we did number 1. So
all right, so Last Ronin, Lost Years number 2 is the second issue of the very first spin-off. Sick cover, bro, right? Of the first spin-off from the excellent Last Ronin series that came out, that finished coming out last year. And what the series has been doing is filling in the lost years that we didn't exactly see in that miniseries. So you're starting to see, like, spoiler alert, if you haven't read the Last Ronin, you might want to skip to the next book. But you're getting this series. You're getting to see like where Michelangelo was right after everybody died, and he was the only survivor, and before he made his journey back to New York to finish his mission. Yeah, I actually love this issue. As much as I love issue 1, I think this was a better one.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I just have to say that.
Yeah, because it seemed like this is where this Lost Years story is really starting. Now I realize, as good as issue 1 was, it was a lot of setup for what's being done in this issue. And now you're starting to see, because in Last Ronin, you see Michelangelo is a little different. Obviously, he's going to be because of everything he's been through. But now you see why, is because he had training by another master now, and he learned a whole other set of disciplines.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I loved. I love the character of Master Yip, like a fantastic character. I believe he's a new addition to the Turtle mythos. I'm not exactly 100% sure if he's been mentioned before.
I don't know. I've read a lot of Turtles, and I've never heard him mentioned. So
I didn't. But he's a great character. Very. It's so well written, because if he was a sensei and to Splinter also, you see where Splinter got some of his personality and teaching techniques also. So I love that aspect of it. You really start to see Michelangelo sort of become the Ronin character he was in the original miniseries in this issue, and that's really the gist of it, man. There's some great. I mean, not that it's all training. I mean, there's some great training sequences, but there's also some great fighting sequences. There's some great character moments, especially even with Casey and April. There's some great moments with them, and sort of pushing their characters forward in this universe. So any hesitation I had about spin-offs for the Last Ronin were kind of like put to rest with this one, because I'm on board now, man. I think if you're going to be pushing this kind of quality of story and book in this new Last Ronin universe, I don't have a problem with them expanding on it, because it does feel very natural to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we had talked about it when we talked about the hardcover. Like, maybe a prequel would make sense, but this is kind of a prequel sequel, though.
It's both.
It is talking about Michelangelo during those years, like leading up to Last Ronin, but we also like get the introduction of these 4 new turtles, like the next generation, and then like talking to Eastman and kind of learning like what this series entails, because I think it jumps 3 years each issue. I think that's the amount of time.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah,
and then Last Ronin 2 is gonna be these new turtles, so it's like, okay, well that could be interesting, like it's the next generation. And then I also was like, as I'm reading, like you say, Master Yip trained Splinter. Like if we're talking about the Mirage universe, then it makes sense, right? Otherwise, he trained him as when Splinter was already a rat. Because in the Mirage universe, like Hamato Yoshi he was in the present day. He wasn't reincarnated. It wasn't a reincarnation thing. The IDW stuff is what introduced like that they're reincarnated from like feudal Japan. Either way, like it's cool, but like I think that this just kind of, to me, tells me that we're leaning more towards the Mirage universe than we are the IDW, which I'm totally cool with. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think this series also was always sort of supposed to be more of a direct continuation or a bookend to the Mirage stuff than what's going
Yeah.
on in IDW now.
Yeah, because I mean, they never say it like directly. I know that the story was written back then, or the idea for it was written back then, but it never. But obviously, it's changed and it's kind of become something different than what it was originally intended. But I really dig it. You know, like I've as much as I love what's going on with the new turtle stuff. Sometimes I like when it's just the turtles. You know,
Yeah,
because it makes it a little bit more special. Like just not having too many mutants around, you know, it kind of like I think it kind of drowns out what makes them special sometimes, you know, when
yeah,
there's too big of a cast. But I really dug this as well. I love the interaction with Michelangelo seeing his brothers and their constant like I wouldn't well, it is kind of nagging. They kind of nag him,
yeah,
dude, you know, and it's
yeah,
like it's cool
yeah,
because like we don't he just starts seeing them at the end of issue 1, right?
yeah,
And then so now he's had to live with them for like 3 years where they're just
yeah,
constantly like getting on him and like kind of telling him like you need basically they're telling him you need to go back. You need to
yeah,
finish off what our father started all those years ago. And I love that he calls Raph out, that
yeah.
Raph got them into this shit, you know?
Yeah, which he did, if you remember in the last Ronin. It
Yeah.
was it was Raph's like impulsive nature. And another thing I love is how like you're sort of shown in this that like even Michelangelo right now is as well as us are not quite sure if him seeing his brothers are actual spirits or if he's concussed or brain damaged, but he just accepts it. Like whatever it is, it's obviously some kind of coping mechanism that he needs to to get to where he needs to be at, you know?
Yeah.
So like you can look at it both ways. You know, if you want to be cynical about it, you could be like, bro, he's just brain damaged and he's, you know, and he's seeing like, you know, hallucinations. Or you could be like optimistic about it and spiritual and be like, you know, his connection to his brothers was so strong that even after death, he continues to be able to see them and hear them and feel them, you know?
I know I'm kind of like torn like which one I believe
Yeah.
because I feel like and it's happened in the Turtles comics like where they can commune with the
Yeah,
spirits,
yeah.
right?
Even in the
Like
IDW series, it happened recently when they were training with Shredder and stuff.
and
Like
then I mean look at
learning
the
astral projection almost.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then remember in Ninja Turtles the first movie, right? When Splinter was hurt and they
yeah.
communed with him, right? Like they
Yeah,
talked to
that
him.
campfire scene, that scene still gets to me, and I'm a
Yeah,
freaking
that
40-year-old man, you know,
yeah.
like
Dude, you're telling
so
me, bro. Like that
yeah.
scene's like embedded in my brain, you know?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I liked it. Like I think that's why I'm kind of leaning more towards that. Like that he
Yeah,
is
same.
actually seeing them
Yeah.
because I feel like that's a better choice. Like I don't know,
Yeah.
I'm not the writer, but I like to think that
But
that's what
I
it is.
like so it speaks to the quality of writing that like they leave it ambiguous and
Yeah.
like allow you to sort of interpret it as you will. You know, it's very well written and then like it's clear to me that like that what they said that this was a story that they had in mind from the very beginning is not a line of bullshit just trying to like justify this like it seems like when we did the video on the hardcover we talked about how like this is like the Dark Knight Returns for the Turtles, which thematically makes sense because Frank Miller has always been in the DNA of the idea. So it's to me it's like it's gonna have to sit right on the shelf with the original Mirage tales when it's all done and said, you know, all said and done. Like
Yeah.
and the art is stellar too, man. I'm really enjoying the art. Like it's gritty enough that it sort of fits in with the old school series.
Yeah.
But you know, it
SL
still has the benefit of
Gallant.
all the modern like you know artistic tools that artists have at their fingertips these days.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see these new turtles too. Like they're starting to grow on me.
Yeah, yeah, they are, and I'm liking the personality they have. Like they're still kids and act like kids, and I love that.
Yeah, I mean, look, and I love that it's April and Casey Jones' kid training them, you know, and I love that when she's talking about Michelangelo, she calls him Sensei. Like I just
Yeah,
there's something about that that I just really enjoy. And like Grammy
yeah,
April, like like
yeah.
it's cute, do you know what I mean? Like,
It's
but
cute, yeah, and I love Master Yip, man. Really great character to add to the mythos. You know,
yeah.
like he's uh he's humorous. Like you know, he almost reminds me of like a Pai Mei from like Kill Bill or something a little bit too. And obviously also Mr. Miyagi with like the way he teaches the. And it's great that you see like that Master Yip's teachings so impacted Michelangelo because Casey is using to instruct these four new turtles are things that Michelangelo learned from Master Yip and Splinter. So she's also continuing that and passing it down. So these new turtles are going to have some of the teachings of Master Yip as well.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's an interesting thing. I didn't even think about that. But it's definitely a really good book. Like I said, I like the first issue, but the second issue really like starts picking up the pace, and I'm
Yeah,
excited to
yeah. The
see what's
story really
next.
goes and I like you mentioned the time jumping earlier. I'd love the way this issue jumps around in time too. It's like it's a great narrative pace that's starting to be created in this issue. So
Yeah.
you're not just sort of following a straightforward story. You're jumping around in time, keeps you guessing, keeps you interested in what's going on. It's clever, man, and it's I don't want to say it's I mean, obviously the original Last Ronin is almost flawless, but this is really good too. So don't sleep on it. If you love the Last Ronin series, you really should be picking it up because I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I second that. All right. Next up, we got Justice Society of America #3, Jeff Johns, Mikel Yanin. We also got Jerry Ordway doing some art in here as well.
Jordy Belair on color.
Jordy Valeric, she colors everything. Uh
Yeah, dude. I don't know how she does it.
I've been really digging this series. We did a video on Justice Society, like the Jeff Johns stuff. On I don't know. I read the first Omni. I feel like we went through the first Omni kind of right, like an
Yeah, we did.
overview. I guess it would have been announced, but I think we
I
had
wasn't
talked.
reading it that time though.
Yeah, but I'm super stoked to see this team back. They've been a favorite of mine going back to when like the late '90s when they launched that JSA run and going all the way into the 2000s. I was sad that team was basically taken out with New 52, and it took a long time for them to like start showing these characters again. So I'm really stoked to see it. It's a time travel story, which I always love. I'm a sucker for time
Yeah, and
travel.
JSA has always been great at having time travel stories and messing with multiple realities and timelines and everything. Like it's kind of like per diem when it comes to the JSA. So like it's great to see it being used here.
So did you pick up the other two, or did you just jump in with
I
them?
did not. Like I've been meaning to, but my shop didn't have them, and then I was like, you know what? Fuck it, man. I love the Justice Society. Like I'm already starting to dip into more and more of what DC is doing now. Let me just pick it up, and I'm so happy I did, man. Like you said, JSA in the late '90s, early 2000s is one of my favorite books for a very long time. One that I revisit constantly, and reading this, it really felt like that series, like more so than at one point that series I think started to lose its way a little bit and not feel like it did. But this reminds me of when I really loved the JSA series, so I'm on board. Like, you got Per Degaton as the villain,
Yeah.
and you've got the legacy concept because we've got a new Doctor Fate, as part of the team here. So like, JSA has always been about the passing of the mantle, like having new characters while acknowledging and respecting the ones that came before. All that is here. Like everything that I loved about that JSA series back in the day seems to be being worked into this current series.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
this
you've read the other issues,
right, this Dr.
so
Fate has been around for a little bit. I feel like he was
he's new to
introduced.
me. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I haven't read the book. Don't get me wrong. Like I
yeah,
just know of the character. He was
yeah.
introduced, I think, man, maybe 2017, 2018. I could be
All right,
wrong.
so a
Maybe
few years
maybe
now.
yeah, it's been a few years, but he had like a short-lived series. But yeah, I mean, Dr. Fate is favorite character of mine. I really loved what was done with him, like in the last JSA run a few years ago, right? But I love this time travel aspect because obviously, well, spoiler alert for anybody that's not reading. I mean, we're on issue 3, so if you haven't been reading it, go pick it up. Huntress is the main character, Batman and Catwoman's daughter. She's from the future and travels back. So she goes back. I feel like I'm right. She was in the original in like the 40s. She went back there, but now she's in present day. I think I'm getting that right. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't. It's been I feel like there was a long gap between 2 and 3. So she goes back to I think to save or to defeat Per Degaton because he kills Catwoman, obviously, which they
Yeah,
talk about. But it's interesting because what you don't see here, like she mentions it that Dr. Fate was on her JSA team, but she had villains on her team, like
yeah.
legacy villains. Like Icicle was on her team. I think I hope I'm not wrong. I think Grundy was on the team too. Like it was a weird collection of things. Batman was already dead at that point.
Yeah.
And Catwoman was like an older version of herself, obviously. But it's so interesting to see this version because, you know, 70s, I don't know, whenever they started introducing more of the multiverse concept, you know, like how Dick Grayson always stayed Robin in that Earth
Yeah.
2, and then Huntress was the daughter of Batman and Catwoman. But that kind of
Yeah.
got erased when they did Crisis on Infinite Earths, and we got Helena Bertinelli
Yeah.
as Huntress. So I love this version. I don't know how this is going to play in. Like, is this really the future version of her?
Yeah.
Like, how is that going to play in? But I mean, the art is phenomenal. I mean, just look at
Yeah,
this. I mean,
dude.
this dude is one of my favorite artists that he just
Yeah.
doesn't do enough. He did
No, man,
like,
he's great.
and first of all, like obviously this is our Earth because we're seeing Power Girl. She's in her new costume that debuted
Yeah.
in Action Comics 1051. You know, we got Stargirl, we got Jakeem Thunder back, we got Alan Scott, which I kind of dig the beard. I'm kind of digging that look for him,
I'm
to be
digging it
honest
too,
with you.
man. It's a good new look for him, you know?
Yeah, and then obviously Jay Garrick, one of my personal favorites. So like, I just love seeing this team come together. And really, who the fuck else should relaunch JSA? It should be Jeff Johns. You know, like
Egg.
at least the beginning, because he
Yep.
knows the characters and he loves them, dude. And like even the callbacks, I just got to shout out this, dude. Like the little callbacks to old stories, like JSA 72, right? They talk. That's
Yeah.
obviously Jeff Johnson, but then they got one that goes All Star Comics 35, like way
Yeah,
back in the day.
yeah, dude, that's like golden age, you know?
You know, so like, I mean, this is just shows how much Jeff Johns knows and loves the history of DC. Like that's why he's always kind of stuck with DC. And like in my eyes, I feel like that's
Yeah.
what it was. Like he's obviously dipped his toes. He's written a few Marvel books, but he's at home with DC. It's kind of what I feel like with Mark Waid. Mark Waid does great stuff at Marvel. He's obviously done more at Marvel than Jeff has done. But there's a love, there's a passion that comes out when they write these DC characters, you know? And you know, seeing Yolanda, the female Wildcat, or you see
Yes.
the female Dr. Fate, you know, like these are all characters that kind of fell by the wayside, or some of them were, you know, killed, I think, during Crisis.
The Unknown Soldier at the beginning and Sergeant
Dude,
Rock.
I know.
That's
Let me
what
tell you.
really, that's kind of one of the things that really did it. Was when I picked up the book at the shop and I opened it, I'm like, The Unknown Soldier? Fuck yeah, I'm done. You
I
know what I
know
mean? Like, I'm good.
I don't flip through the books until I get home, you know, because like I was obviously I'm going to work, so I can't
Yeah.
really like start reading. But when I opened this last night, and I was just like, oh hell yeah, dude, yes,
Yeah.
you know, like of course Jeff Johns is gonna throw this like just real quick, like let me just put Unknown Soldier at the beginning to move the narrative forward. And I love Sergeant Rock. I feel like that would
And
be a cool
spoiler,
book.
you find out about Sergeant Rock's death in here real quickly too. They mentioned like him getting, I think it's Sergeant Rock's death when they flash back. Yeah, here, May 7th, 1945. You know, like, Sarge, like that panel. I think Sergeant Rock is dead. Yeah, it's like almost towards the end, like maybe like 3 or 4 pages from the end.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and Degaton is watching it.
Yeah, I see it.
The final bullet fired in World War II, killing a man who helped the Allies destroy us.
Yeah, it's just full of this is what I love about DC, dude. Like DC is all about
Yes.
legacy, you know, and it's all about like honoring the past and stuff. And I really fucking I like this Huntress. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if this is Huntress from the future or if this is a multiverse thing. Like it could go either way. Either way, I like it. I
She might
dig it.
not even be aware, you know what I mean? Like she might not even be aware if she isn't on her Earth or whatnot, you know, because like really right now we don't really know what's going on. Like per whatever per Degaton is doing is unclear. Like we're as in the dark as the team is, which is a really great like technique because it keeps you like very invested. I
Right.
also love Deadman and Detective Chimp in here too, man. Like
Oh yeah.
I love Detective Chimp. I love seeing him.
Dead Man's one of
Uh,
my favorite characters too, so I always love when I get to see him.
So I mean, it's Jeff Johns is so good at like pulling all these side characters too, and just making it feel like such a natural fit that
Yeah.
it's great, man. I mean, I'm on board. I'm adding it to my pull list, starting with issue 4. So that's another DC title I've got coming in.
Yeah, surprised I haven't convinced you to buy this sooner. It's, you know what? It's because we weren't doing our weekly picks. If I would have
Yeah,
got you at number 2, you probably would have come back to the shop that day.
and you know what? I remember like when I saw it, that it was coming out, I was like, man, you know what? I love JSA and Jeff Johns. What a pairing. But I don't know. I was reading so many books and like I didn't give it. But something about this cover, sitting there like struck me. I love Jay Garrick. Like just like the illustration was great. And then unlike you, I like to open at least to the first page sometimes, especially when I'm
Well,
blind
yeah.
buying.
If you're that, I get.
Yeah,
If I'm not buying the book, if it's not something I normally get, yes, I will flip. I
yeah.
should have
But
specified that.
as
If
soon
it's
as
on
I
my pull,
saw
I don't.
that, I knew I'm like, all right, so that's such a classic Johns move to open a story with something like that to hook you in with a strange character, and I was like, all right, yeah, I'm sold.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just such a great book. Like I hope that this is not just a maxi series. I know that I saw conflicting things. First it was an ongoing, then it said it was a 12-issue series. I mean, no matter
Yeah,
what, I'll still buy it, but like I hope that this isn't the last of JSA. I hope it does well enough that they continue to do it. I mean, even the final page, like per Degaton, look at what a great villain he looks like. Just like
yeah,
standing there and saying like it's so good to see you all in your prime again right before your fall.
yeah,
it's,
dude.
it's over
That's
this
such
week.
a like Jeff Johns is also so good at writing like monologues for villains or like the way they speak,
Yeah.
like there's so many great moments that he's done and that's right up there with him, like and he's also a master of the cliffhanger, obviously evident with this issue. Like this issue is a great example of how he knows how to start a story and end it on the right perfect moments, man. So I'm all in, man. It really does remind me of that amazing JSA run that we covered. So definitely, if you love that late '90s, early aughts JSA, pick this up because it does have the flavor. Yeah, my next book is something I blind bought. I hadn't even really. I mean, I get I'm on Images like press list, and I guess I must have like skimmed it because I didn't even see this was coming out. But it's a book called The Forged by Greg Rucka, Eric Troutman, Mark Henderson, colors by Nolan Woodward, and letters by Ariana Mayer. Rucka and Troutman worked together on a couple of Old Guard stuff, and Mark Henderson did Nailbiter, which I read a few issues of, and I always loved his art. And what attracted me at first was the size. As you can see, this is a magazine size book printed on like magazine paper. And after reading the story, I realized why, because this shit is straight out of Heavy Metal magazine, bro. This
Okay.
is like a super violent, like raunchy, like spaceman marine epic. The Forged are a group of female super soldier space marines that work for this empire way in the future that's ruled by a woman, and tons of amazing world building in here, and right down to like the little details as to how they mark dates, and like they really thought out the world, and it's great, man. You get a great introduction to all the characters. The it's action packed, and to me, Greg Rucka has always excelled at writing female characters. Like he writes them with like a lot of personality. They're always badasses,
Yep.
but like not like in a sort of like thin way, Like they're still like very fleshed out characters that kick fucking major ass. And like he's got an entire crew of them here. And the story opens with them playing cards while they're waiting for the next mission. So it's a great way to sort of be introduced to all these characters and their personalities and their interactions and where they fit in the dynamic of the team. And then he drops you right into like the world and the story. But it's so well written that like you really sort of get a feel for the world right away. And I can't emphasize enough how much this reminds me of something you would see in Heavy Metal magazine. I mean, like it's just great, man. I love it. I don't want to say too much because part of the joy is in discovering this new world as you read it. But I wanted to just point out some of the art, like how it just looks amazing on like
Oh
these
yeah.
big pages. And I don't think we have enough comics in this format, man. Like they do it a lot in Europe, where they print comics in like this larger dimension. And I mean I don't necessarily think it needs to be done for everything, but for this kind of story, it really works. And like the coloring is also amazing in this. Like
Oh yeah.
you've
Wow.
got some really great like spectrum. I loved it, man. I'm on board. I don't know how long. I believe it's a miniseries, something like this. Probably is. And Rucka generally tends to stick to contain miniseries that he might revisit, but I don't think he's done an ongoing at Image in a while. And there's also a ton of supplemental material that helps build out the world, like graphs, like log entries and essays and like scientific journals from the
Oh, like
world.
Hickman.
Yes, yes, but not exactly like Hickman because there's something about Hickman that makes it Hickman. It's hard to put
I know what you're talking about. I mean, Rucka's done it too with Lazarus. He's done a lot of that kind of stuff.
exactly, so it has that vibe, but it does feel like his own. And again, I love the size and the format, man. I love it when comics do this, and I'm on board for the rest of it. I also added this to my pull list. So I think it's great, and if you want something a little different, definitely check it out. But it's definitely not for the faint of heart. It's filled with like cursing and violence and sexuality, and that's where the heavy metal aspect comes in. So if you dig that kind of Euro comic, like Judge Dredd, ABC Mutants and all that kind of stuff, definitely pick it up. I can't recommend it enough, and it was a nice highlight and a nice surprise. I love going to the comic shop and being surprised by something new, and I got that from this book, so I recommend it.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely it was something I was gonna check out, but like I said, my pile was a lot to read last night. And I actually, if I would have known you were, I don't know if you told me that was your pick or not yet, but I'll pick it up. I'll check it out next week for sure. And I get the PDFs also, so maybe I'll just read it on there. Yeah. My next pick is a book I've been kind of looking forward to, like ever since it was announced. It's Superman Lost #1 by Christopher Priest, and I'm gonna butcher this last name, Carlo Pugulian. I don't know. I hope I'm not butchering that. And Jason Paz on inks, Jeremy Cox on colors. This elevator pitch is Superman goes on a mission or whatever, right? Comes back, and 20 years have passed.
Oh wow, that's great.
So like I love the way it opens up. It opens up. There's a car chase, right? Like a car goes over, Superman, catches it, blah blah blah, and then you go in, and Lois is, Lois is writing an article, and I love this because like you never really see Lois like that. Like she's in curlers and stuff, like just drinking.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's something about that I really dug, and it's just like this back and forth with her and Clark, and they're having their whole interaction, and then he gets a call. They're having their whole interaction. She's writing, and he's like telling her to like calm down and relax, or she's telling him to calm down and relax, and he's like fixing a toaster as like a therapeutic, like to kind of calm down. Like it was kind of a funny interaction. But you flip, and it says hours later, she's at the desk and has fallen asleep, and then this is like, I don't know, this image of Superman that I'm going to show. It's so ominous. It's like you can see the look, like some shit has gone down, but it says hours later. She goes and she's like, oh, that was quick, and goes to the bathroom. She's like, are you hungry? Like, I got some stuff in the fridge. And he's not saying anything. He's just staring out of the window, right? Like, just fucking, it's just I mean, like, if you don't know the whole spiel of the book, like, I guess maybe it would have hit even a little bit better. But I mean, it was said in the solicits for #1, but it just continues, dude. He's like he's not doing anything. And like the power of that was fucking crazy. And she's like, oh, so glad you're back. And she's like, are you all right? And she's like, that was a pretty quick mission. He's like, quick? I've been gone 20 years. And she just looks, and the doorbell's ringing. She's like, hold that thought. And she opens the door. It's fucking Bruce. It's
oh
Bruce.
Wow.
And he's like, Lois, I have some, and then like he's like, he's stuttered, like he's about to tell her he has some news, right? And he sees Superman, and she just looks, and she's like, what did you do? And she's pissed. She's pissed at Bruce, dude. And I've always loved that about Lois, that she doesn't give a shit about anybody. She doesn't care who the fuck you are. She will stand up to you. She's like one of the, in my opinion, one of the strongest women in DC Comics, and she doesn't have powers.
she'll
And
call shit on Batman. You know what I mean? Like, which
yeah,
is no easy
and
feat.
and
Yeah.
you were talking about Rucka, like his Lois Lane book was phenomenal. I don't know if you've read it, but
No, I
so
haven't.
okay, we got that's got to be an episode on the channel because it's such a good book. She's asking him like, "What did you do?" And she's like, "You seem surprised that he's here." Like what happened? And so like then they proceed to tell the mission, and it feels like this is kind of political. Like I don't watch the news a lot, but I know there's some shit with China and stuff that has been going
Yeah.
on, and so like it's all about a malfunctioned Chinese submarine off by this island, right? And so like the Justice League goes, which by the way, look at this fucking spread right here, dude. Fucking
Oh, dude, and
amazing.
you got the classic league there.
Amazing. You got the Hal, Barry, Martian Manhunter, you got Aquaman, no beard, which is so I don't know when this is supposed to take place. It's probably a little
Yeah.
bit out of continuity. And then you got Green Arrow on the team too, Wonder Woman. So they're going after this and they're fighting, blah, 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 right? And then something happens in the ocean. Superman's gonna fly into this thing, right? And so they put a tether on him with the lasso of truth, but he gets sucked in and like he's gone and they don't know where he is. And that's where you don't find out really what went down, right? Like, and then that's why Bruce obviously goes because he thinks fucking Clark's gone. He thinks that's it. Like they don't know where the fuck he went, but he's already
Yeah.
back. And that's the hook of the series. I think it's really dope. And like the last page, like doesn't really spoil anything, but he's like lost in space, and that's the thing that he got sucked into in the ocean. But first of all, Christopher Priest is one of the best writers
Yeah, I was gonna say I've always
comics
loved
has ever seen. Such a great. I mean,
his
his
Black
Deathstroke,
Panther stuff was.
Black Panther, his Deathstroke was really good. So the minute he was announced on this book, I was like, in the concept of like Superman being gone for 20 years, just like I'm like, that's dope. Like I can't imagine that. Like imagine like somebody, right? And they go out for like to go to the store or whatever, you come back and they've been gone like 20 years has passed for them, but like nothing has happened for you. Like what happened to him? Like what could have gone down with him in those 20 years that he came back and he looked like he was just in shock, like obviously PTSD. Like you don't see Superman in that scenario ever. So
Yeah.
I think that that's a pretty cool concept in and of itself, and it's only a 10 issue series, but I'm here for it, dude. And I really love this cover. Oh, the glare is kind of like not good, but well,
No, yeah, I saw it on the shelf at the shop, and again, one I almost picked up because of Christopher Priest, but
yeah, but I
but
can't I
I
can't.
might be willing to give it a shot,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. I'm sorry. I keep like adding
Hey,
stuff
man,
to
it's
your
fine. It's fine,
but
bro. You know,
it's
like
such it was I really enjoyed it. It's I feel like it could have gone a little bit quicker, I guess. Maybe the pacing of it. That's what my buddy at the shop was telling me. He's like, it was good. He's like, but I feel like you could have condensed it a little more. And I know that you and I have talked about like first issues. But I dug it. I enjoyed it. I already knew the concept, so like I was already sold before I picked up the book. I didn't really need to be sold
yeah,
again. So I think it's definitely worth picking up.
yeah. And I do love when DC does these, like you said, you mentioned earlier, it's probably slightly out of continuity. I love when DC does those because it usually frees up the writer to be able to take some big ass swings, and someone like Priest is always going to hit it out of the park. So
Yeah, I agree.
it's always a great gift to give a writer, I think. All right, so my final pick is going to be Hulk number 13 by Ryan Otley. It's the first issue that he's solely credited as a writer and artist. The issue before, Donny Cates still got a story credit, and this is wrapping up the current storyline where Banner has created sort of a starship out of the Hulk, where like he separated his psyche into different ways to sort of try and control it better. And
Yeah.
this issue was awesome, man. You find out the whole time here we've been led to believe, because that's what Bruce believed, that it was Doctor Strange that used his magic to help Banner create these separate rooms inside his mind in order to better control the Hulk. But it wasn't Doctor Strange. Spoiler alert. It was a character named Despair, which is a very old school like Marvel villain. He's like a demon from a different dimension, and he's very cool looking. So deep cut right there. And now it all makes sense, because the whole time you've been reading it, like Doctor Strange seemed very confused. and you weren't sure if he was lying because Strange has been guilty of covering things up and being a little bit a little bit two-faced is the wrong word, but like he's willing to go into places that other heroes haven't before. So
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was part of the subterfuge he had made a deal with Banner to not tell anybody. But now it's clear that Strange had nothing to do with any of this. So he's as shocked and he's so worried when he finds out who it is. Great action in this issue, man. There's some amazing fights, amazing monster designs. Like, I mean, it really crackles with energy. Like you really see like Ryan Otley going buck wild, drawing action scenes and like creatures, which is something he excels at. And this book really does push sort of the violence as far as I think Marvel can go sometimes. Like one of my favorite panels was when Hulk literally is trying to rip something out of his head. Let me find the panel, and he fucking tears his scalp open. You can see it right there at the bottom, and he's like fucking tearing his. You can see his fucking brain exposed and everything. Like, I love when Ryan Otley draws that kind of stuff, and this issue is filled with great moments like that. Um, a great sequence with Doctor Strange astral projecting and like fighting despair inside the mind of the Hulk. And Despair, if you haven't seen him, he's a very cool looking character too. Like he's got a cape and like really cool design. So I loved it, man. I had picked it up based on Ryan Otley's involvement. I'm a big Donny Cates fan, so I was a little worried when he was going to drop out, but no, Otley kept it going. I know it's wrapping up soon, so you've only got about one issue left, and maybe Donny Cates leaving sort of affected the momentum or when it was going to wrap up. But for at least for me, it didn't take any enjoyment out of it. I'm always a sucker for Ryan Otley's art, man. He's like one of the better superhero artists that have been out in the last 20 years or so. If you like the stuff he did on Invincible and you like the Invincible had so many great fucking fights that took up entire issues sometimes. And
Yeah.
that's what this is, like it almost reads like a fight manga. Like the whole issue is like one big fight, but it's not boring. It drives the story forward and is filled with great moments. So I'm on board until this run ends, man. And I recommend it. It might not be the deepest Hulk story we've ever had. It's hard to top what Al Ewing did because he really sort of dwelled into like the psychological aspect.
Hmm.
But like I think I said earlier, one of the things I love about the Hulk is that he can be interpreted in so many ways, and you can tell so many different kinds of stories with the character. And I love what Al Ewing did in the previous series, but this is nice and different, and I'm enjoying it for different reasons. And it just gives me it feels a little it feels a little neat I have for really action packed comics. So I recommend it, man, and dope cover too.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that cover.
Otley's
Yeah,
great, dude. No, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I haven't been reading it. I'm waiting until Philip Kennedy Johnson takes over with Nick Klein. I'm kind
yeah.
of
I'm
excited for
gonna
that one.
continue. Yeah, I know he's on it. He's the next writer on it, so I'm definitely gonna pick it up. And I'm curious to see as how they're gonna what direction they'll take the Hulk now in.
Yeah, I'm
But
excited
yeah,
too.
I love that Marvel's been doing that with the Hulk for years now. It's just sort of like giving a creative team here's a Hulk. He's a very unique character in the pantheon of Marvel because he's like Jim Rugg said, when he did Grand Design, it's like he is a monster, like he's not really a traditional superhero character, but he's so integral to the Marvel universe that like it makes him a very unique character to tell stories with. And I love that different writers and creative teams have been able to sort of do something a little different. Like, maybe it doesn't always land, but it's always new and cool and refreshing. And I recommend
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, my last pick is kind of I just like I picked it up off the shelf. I kind of read a little bit of the synopsis beforehand. Sounded kind of interesting. So it was Hellcat #1 by Christopher
Oh,
Cantwell
nice.
and Alex Linz. He wrote Hellcat during his Iron Man run. I read most of it. I haven't finished it off. But I kind of dug it. Like Tony and Patsy were a thing in that book, which is kind of a weird relationship, but I don't know. I kind of dug it. It was something that was kind of different and interesting. So she's on her own now. I don't really understand this part of this, like with the mutated kind of version of her, but that's besides the point. Like that was the only thing where I was kind of like confused about. But you get to the past when she's a kid, and obviously her dad is leaving, her parents are being separated, right? And you see like her, like she refers to the dad is good and the mom bad. So I don't know like what that's going to entail moving forward, because we don't get that much more of like her as a kid. But the main part of this is she's being charged with murder, and she's like in the back of a cop car. I don't know if this, I mean, it says now, but I feel like she'd be like super young. Like that's the only thing that I again like was not really clear, because if it is in the present day, I would feel like she'd be a little bit older than her 20s, because that's kind of what
Yeah.
I took it as. But I mean, that's besides the point. But it's an old boyfriend who's like this murder is just so fucking grisly, dude. Like it's fucking
Yeah. Wow.
insane.
Yeah.
It's pretty graphic, but I just love this whole mystery behind. And like you get it gives you a little backstory of like where she met this dude, and there's a little bit of mystery behind that. But I love, as she's being like, where it really got good for me is when she's in the interrogation room, and she's like being interrogated by one of the detectives, and he's like, oh, my little sister read your comics growing up, America's number one teenager, which in the past it was Patsy Walker. It was like, it wasn't
Yeah.
her as a superhero, it was her
Yeah.
as just
Yeah.
a teen character. So like
She
that
has such
was,
an interesting history in Marvel, because it's like if Archie took Betty and or Veronica and turned them into a superhero all of a sudden, like,
yeah, yeah. And
yeah.
like a serious kind, like somewhat serious superhero, right? Like it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So I think Christopher Cantwell, like he does humor really well, but he also does like the serious stuff really well also. But I think it's funny because she calls him like, guys never admit that they read those comics.
That's
And
great.
he's like, well, my sister loved them. And she's like, oh yeah, what's her name? And the cop can't answer. So like just like that whole interaction just like was, to me, was
That's
really fun.
great, man.
It made me
That's
laugh.
great.
It made me laugh out
Yeah.
loud, which is not always a common thing with me when I'm reading a
That's
comic book.
great. Yeah.
So she's like getting interrogated. She just keeps saying lawyer, lawyer. Like she won't say anything, dude. And I just I think it's interesting too. Like what I really love is like it's she's 16 years old, and it has what is supposed to be torn out comic book page of the
Oh,
Patsy
nice.
Walker comic, and so you're getting also a little bit backstory with one of her friends. I think her name is Hetty. So she gets paid to like do people's papers and stuff, and like she's like, you can afford it, like you're fucking, it's like a rich kid, right? And
Yeah.
Patsy's definitely not. But I think that this whole mystery, first of all, the art is like phenomenal. Let me just like, Alex Lins is just fucking doing some really really dope stuff. I
Yeah.
don't know where I've seen their work before, but I just, like she's obviously like a fucking drunk, she's fucking pill popping and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see like this character in this light, and like this murder happens, and you fucking get a sleepwalker
Oh, bro, are you
appearance.
serious?
Yeah.
Fuck,
So
bro. Come on. That's great.
yeah, like so it's just, like she's investigating like what happened. Like she doesn't know, we don't know, but she's the number one
Suspect.
suspect,
Yeah.
right? So like it's cool to like, we get that we get Sleepwalker in here. And then I know that like she dated Damien Hellstrom at one point. I know he's going to make an appearance. I think I saw that solicit, which made me like, okay, I kind of want to pick this book up. But it's interesting. Like we don't, like now, like they're thinking that he killed this fucking guy, and then out of jealousy, and like you find out that he's in love with her. Like that's at the end of the issue as
Oh,
well.
okay. So now we have a motivation. Yeah.
Have a motivation, but like he doesn't know if he did it or not either. And then like a little more of a flashback with Patsy as a kid and watching her dad leave. But this overall, like the mystery of the book, not knowing who did what. I mean, obviously, like Patsy's a suspect, Sleepwalker's like in a suspect as well. Sleepwalker, I don't even know that well, but just like I know of the characters, so to see him like
Yeah,
just used in this light, it's very funny, well written, well drawn, fucking just I mean definitely something that I'm gonna continue reading, and I just kind of semi blindly picked it up off the shelf, just
yeah,
on the strength of Cantwell writing, because I think he is a very good writer, and yeah, dude, I would recommend this book definitely if you're if you're looking for something kind of different from Marvel that's not tied to anything going on. Super like super good first issue. Like you get what you need from the character. You get a little bit of backstory. You get the whole concept of what this is going to be moving forward. I know it's I think it's 5 or 6 issues. So definitely pick it up. And that's all we got today.
yeah, man. Another good week for comics.
I know we say that every week too.
Yeah, I mean, every week there's at least 4 books that I'm actively excited about. And another thing I've been noticing is how many books I'm being surprised by week after week, and books that like are I'm starting to pick up. So like it's not only what I've been reading, is that I'm starting to find things that I should have been reading or would have liked to have been reading,
I agree,
which is
dude.
great, man. You know, it's which is great. It gives that trip to the comic shop an extra level of excitement. You know, because half the time now I'm like, bro, I'm probably gonna find like, and I don't have to look too hard. It's not like I'm pushing like to find books because there's nothing, or I'm only picking up 1 or 2 and I want something else to read. No, like I think I'm gonna get to a point where I'm gonna have to be like, all right, gotta start being a little selective now, because I gotta pay the electric bill. You know what I mean? I gotta eat. You know, so things like that. But I mean, if I have to worry about too many good comics, that's an easy problem, bro. You know what I mean? Like it's a bummer if you can't read them all. But I'd rather be bummed out because there's too many good comics to read than be bummed out that there's no good comics to read. You know, so
Yeah.
it's definitely the former, not the latter. So I'm excited for comics, and I haven't been this excited to go to the shop week after week in a long time, man. You know, so it's always great talking with you about them and sharing our views with the public, because like we keep saying, you got to hit your comic shop, man. There's definitely stuff out there for you, and keep supporting them.
Yeah.
They're very vital to the industry.
Yeah, I mean, like it's a little different for me. Like I go in on Wednesdays, I'm working, but it's not really work. It's like for me, I
Yeah,
just it's like I'm hanging out at the shop, and I just hang out a lot longer than most people would. But
yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's and I also have the benefit of obviously like I can take stuff home if I want to read. Like I don't
yeah,
have to buy everything. But then it's like, but do I kind of want to buy that? Because do I want to be able to keep it and like have it with
yeah,
me? Like that's my struggle, because like I am able
yeah,
to kind of read whatever I want to read. Uh but there's so much good stuff coming out, and like being there for that many hours in the day, sometimes I'll just like walk around. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go like kind of organize stuff, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'll pick this up. Like my buddy Kevin came in like towards right before I was gonna leave, and I saw him grab Hellcat. This was like such a last minute grab. I literally grabbed it the last 5 minutes of me being there, and I was like, I'll just take this home. I'm gonna read this. And look, I mean, I wouldn't. I probably might have just skipped it. I might have waited. I might have like done
yeah,
like kind of what you do with JSA, right? You picked it up with issue 3, like. But I'm so
yeah,
glad that I picked it up. Such a good book, and there is, I mean, there's always something good to come out. You just have to look for it. That's all it is.
yeah,
There's always at least a couple good books that you can
yeah.
find. You
We've
don't.
been saying it for months now. Like I will, I will bet the deed to my apartment that you will find at least one good comic every week if you go to the shop. Like, I mean, guaranteed. Like, I have no fucking doubt that if you're a comics fan, you're gonna find something week after week. Like, don't go around sitting and don't. Comics are really great right now. So go get some, man.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said at the beginning of the episode, if you're not already following us, make sure you follow us. So you see every time we put a new vid up. Links are down below for Manny. Links are down below for Comic Lounge. Hit the subscribe button, the bell icon, all that good stuff. So you're notified every time a new vid drops. And on that note, we're out.
We'll see you next Friday, guys.